My wife promised me we'd build a future together, but I just found out she secretly transferred $250, $0 into her sister's name. Now she's suing me for half the property and claiming I'm trying to steal everything, all while she's been cheating with her lawyer behind my back. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation where everything I believed about my marriage would come crashing down in such a brutal way. Honestly, it felt like I was living some twisted nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. The most unexpected thing. My wife, Emily, who I thought was the love of my life, was secretly screwing around with her lawyer behind my back. And on top of that, she'd been draining our bank accounts and transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars into her sister's name, all while pretending everything was fine. I still remember the day I found out, like it was burned into my brain forever. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had plans, dreams, a future we talked about every night. We'd been together for almost 10 years, and I'd always believed we were building something real. Emily was always a little bitchy, quick to dismiss my concerns, but I thought that was just her personality. She was ambitious, sometimes ruthless, but she loved me. Or at least, that's what I told myself. She promised me we'd build a future together, that she wanted the same things I did. I trusted her, completely. But then last month everything started to change. Small things at first. She was more distant, secretive on her phone, deleting messages, hiding her screens when I walked into the room. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was stressed at work or dealing with some personal stuff. But then I caught her in a lie. She told me she was meeting her sister, Sarah, for lunch. I saw her car outside the office, but when I checked her phone later, I found texts from her lawyer, Mark, that she'd clearly been exchanging behind my back. The messages weren't just friendly, they were flirtatious, explicit even. My stomach dropped. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started digging. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know what was really going on. Over the next few weeks, I uncovered more than I ever wanted to know. Emily and Mark had been sleeping together for months. There were hotel receipts, late-night calls, texts that made my blood boil. She'd been lying to my face, acting like everything was perfect, while she was in bed with her lawyer. It was like my entire marriage was a lie. And then there was the money. That's when things got even worse. I found out she'd transferred $250, $0 into her sister Sarah's bank account, money that should have been ours, that we worked hard for. She told me she was investing, saving for the future, but I found bank statements showing she'd done it secretly. I confronted her about it, and she looked me right in the eyes and lied, saying she'd done it for emergencies, that she was protecting us. But I knew better. I knew she'd been planning this, hiding her secrets behind my back. When I finally confronted Emily about everything, she spun some bullshit about how I was paranoid, how I didn't trust her, how I was trying to steal her rights. She called me possessive, accused me of trying to control her. She even had the nerve to say I was imagining things, that her relationship with Mark was innocent, just professional. But I saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't care about us. She cared about her secrets, her lies, her freedom to do whatever she wanted. That moment hit me hard. I felt a mixture of rage, betrayal, and sadness I can't even put into words. How could she do this? How could she lie to me for so long? I had given her everything, my love, my trust, my career sacrifices, and she repaid me with cheating, money theft, and deception. I was furious, but I also felt a crushing sense of loss. Our vows, our future, all gone in an instant. I wondered how I could have missed the signs or been so blind. How did I not see her true colors? That night I sat alone in our house, staring at the wall, trying to process what I just learned. I thought about everything we'd shared, all the plans, the promises, and I realized that I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I needed to do something. I needed to fight back, not just for the money or the betrayal, but for myself. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I had to figure out what to do next, and fast. Because this wasn't just about infidelity, it was about my life, my future, my dignity. And I was done being a victim. After the initial shock wore off, I started to piece things together more clearly. I knew I couldn't just sit around and let her keep pulling the strings. The betrayal ran deeper than I ever thought possible. That night, I stayed up late, going through bank statements, emails, everything I could find. I needed to understand exactly how much she'd taken, what she was planning, and what I was dealing with. It was like peeling back layers of a lie I'd been living in. The most shocking discovery was that she'd transferred that $250, $0, into her sister Sarah's account a few weeks before I found out. She told me she was saving for emergencies, but I found emails between her and Sarah discussing how they'd split the money, how Sarah was going to help her hide it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a reckless act. Emily was planning something big, and she'd been lying to my face the whole time. All those late nights, all those secret meetings, they weren't just about her cheating with Mark. They were about her trying to cut me out of our life completely. I also found out from the investigator that Emily had been paying Mark, her lawyer, a lot of extra money. Not just for legal work, but for special favors. That's when I realized the full extent of her manipulation. She'd been using her lawyer to cover her tracks, to keep her secret life hidden. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. She'd been telling me she loved me, pretending to be committed, while she was screwing around with her lawyer and planning her escape. I decided I needed to confront her again, but this time with all the evidence. I set up a meeting at our house, told her I had some things to discuss. When she walked in, I didn't hold back. I laid out everything. I'd uncovered her affair, the money transfer, the lies. I wanted her to see that I knew the truth, her reaction. She looked stunned at first, then became defensive, trying to deny everything. She said I was paranoid, that I was accusing her without proof, and that I was just jealous. That's when I snapped. I told her I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, emails, and that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Her face twisted into a sneer, and she started yelling, calling me possessive and insecure. She claimed I was trying to control her, that she deserved her freedom, that she was doing all this for us, but I just didn't see it. Her words felt like poison. I could see the venom behind her eyes, the way she was trying to spin everything to make herself look innocent. But I wasn't buying it. I knew who she really was now. I felt a cold fury rising inside me. All those years I'd worked to build a life with her, and she'd been secretly tearing it apart. I'd been a fool, trusting her, believing in her promises. Now I saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd ruined everything. I told her to pack her stuff and leave. I was done. Done with the lies, the cheating, the theft. I didn't want her near me anymore. That night, as she packed her bags, she kept lying, trying to guilt me into letting her stay, crying about how she loved me, how she was doing it all for us. It was all bullshit. I saw through her every word. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She thought she could cheat her way out of everything, steal my money, and walk away like she was the victim. But I wasn't going to let her, not without a fight. I contacted a lawyer the next day. I knew I had to protect what was left of my life, my property, and my sanity. I also started the process of retrieving the money she'd transferred, making sure it was legally tied up. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her, just in case she tried to do something even more reckless. I was ready for whatever came next. It's crazy how fast everything changed. One day I had a marriage I believed in, and the next I was fighting to save what little I had left. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to be strong for myself. I couldn't let her win. I had to rebuild, even if it meant starting over from scratch. I just hope I can find a way to move past this, because right now it feels like my world is falling apart. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and endless sleepless nights. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, but I knew I had to focus. Emily had already started her descent into chaos. She was furious when I told her I was going to involve lawyers and take back control of our assets. Her calls and texts became more frantic, full of accusations and crying fits. She kept insisting that I was trying to ruin her, that I was jealous of her success and her freedom. Honestly, I just couldn't believe how manipulative she was willing to get, all while pretending to be the victim. I decided to dig even deeper. I wanted to know if there was anything else she was hiding. I hired a private investigator to follow her, just to see if she was planning to run or hide. Turns out, she was meeting with her lawyer almost every day, sometimes late into the night. I found out she'd been trying to transfer more money, trying to hide the rest of her assets, and even setting up new accounts under fake names. The scope of her deception was staggering. I'd never imagined she could be this cold and calculated. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about the money she'd stolen, those hundreds of thousands, and how she'd used it to fund her affair and her escape plan. She told me she was saving for the future, but it was all a lie. She'd been planning her exit for months, maybe longer. I started to realize that the woman I married wasn't the person I thought she was. She was a liar, a thief, and a cheat, all wrapped into one. One particularly shocking moment came when I found out she'd been paying Mark, her lawyer, with money that wasn't supposed to be his fee. There were emails where she discussed paying him extra for his discretion, which made me sick. She'd been buying his silence, paying him to keep her secrets. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, trusting her to the very end. All the signs were there and I just didn't see them. I knew I had to confront her again, so I scheduled a meeting at our house with both lawyers present. I wanted to get everything out in the open, lay my cards on the table. When she arrived, she was visibly nervous, but she tried to act confident. I laid out all the evidence I'd gathered, bank statements, emails, the investigator's report. Her face paled when she saw the documents. She tried to deny everything, saying it was all a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting, that she loved me and was only trying to protect us. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the money she'd transferred, how she'd been lying to my face for months. Her excuses were pathetic. She claimed she did it all because she felt trapped and wanted to be free, that she was stressed out, and that her affair with Mark was just a mistake. That's when I finally saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been using me from the beginning. I told her to leave, that I didn't want her near me anymore, that I was done. Done with her lies, her cheating, her theft. She started crying, saying she still loved me, that she wanted to fix things, but I knew better. Love doesn't cheat, steal, and lie this much. I told her that she'd crossed every line, and I wasn't going to let her destroy what was left of my life. That night, I sat alone in the house, feeling a mix of relief and emptiness. It was like waking up from a nightmare, but the scars were still there. I knew I had to protect myself legally now. I contacted my lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce, claiming everything she'd stolen and demanding full custody of the assets I'd built. I also made sure to secure the remaining money, freezing her accounts. I wanted her to realize that her actions had real consequences. As I watched her pack her things and leave, she kept insisting it was all a mistake, that she'd changed, that she loved me. But I saw through her. I knew this wasn't just about money or sex, it was about who she really was. And I wasn't going to let her ruin me. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted, but deep down, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized that I'd been holding on to a fantasy of what I thought our marriage was, and now I had to start over. It's painful, but I know I'll come out stronger. I just hope someday I can forgive myself for not seeing her true nature sooner. The aftermath of her leaving hit me harder than I expected. It was like waking up in a house that wasn't mine anymore, even though I was still living in it. The silence was deafening. Every room echoed with memories I'd never get back. I kept going over everything again and again. Her lies, the money, the affair. It all felt like a sick joke, like I'd been played for a fool for years. The anger simmered just beneath the surface, but underneath that there was an even deeper feeling, heartbreak. I'd loved her once, believed in us, built my life around her. Now I was left with nothing but a trail of broken trust and a mountain of legal problems. The divorce process was brutal. Emily fought me on every front. She hired her own lawyer, Mark's partner, and they did everything they could to drag it out. She claimed I was trying to steal her rights, that I was abusing the system, all because I wanted what was rightfully ours. She even went as far as to accuse me of being controlling, jealous, and unstable. Her lies kept pouring out, trying to paint me as the bad guy, but I had the evidence. I had the proof of her affair, the stolen money, her secret accounts. Still, it was exhausting to keep defending myself against her barrage of false accusations. The money situation was the worst part. I managed to freeze her accounts, but she'd already moved a lot of it around. I hired forensic accountants to trace where the rest went. Turns out, she'd been funneling money into offshore accounts, trying to hide her assets. It was a tangled mess, and I knew I'd need a lot of patience and legal muscle to get it all back. I also learned that she'd been planning her escape for months, maybe even years. Every step she took was calculated, designed to leave me with nothing. That realization made my blood boil. How could someone I loved turn into this manipulative, selfish person? Meanwhile, I was trying to pick up the pieces of my personal life. I started therapy, trying to deal with the shock and betrayal. It was hard. Every time I thought I was getting better, something new would come up. An email, a bank statement, a memory. I felt like I was constantly fighting to keep my sanity. The worst part was the feeling of losing her, even though I knew she was no longer the woman I married. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I hadn't seen her true nature sooner. But deep down, I knew I'd been blinded by love, by hope. Friends and family started to notice my change. Some told me to fight for her, to try to save what we had, but I knew better. I saw her for what she really was now: a liar, a thief, a user. I told them I was done chasing illusions. I had to focus on rebuilding my life, even if it meant starting from zero. I sold the house I'd poured my soul into, cut ties with people who supported her lies, and began to think about what I really wanted going forward. It was terrifying, but also freeing. I also realized that I needed to protect myself from her future schemes. I changed all my passwords, set up new bank accounts, and made sure she had no way to access anything. I even filed a restraining order, just in case she tried to come back and manipulate me again. I wasn't going to be her pawn anymore. I was done being a victim. That realization, as bitter as it was, gave me a small sense of control. I was finally taking charge of my life, even if the road ahead was uncertain. The trust I once had in her is gone, replaced by a cautious, guarded part of me that knows the pain of betrayal all too well. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm not going to let her destroy me completely. I just wish I'd seen her true colors sooner. Honestly, I never thought I'd be in a situation like this, completely broken, betrayed, and trying to piece my life back together after someone I loved turned out to be the biggest liar and thief I'd ever met. But here I am, months after she left, still dealing with the fallout. The divorce is finally finalized, and I have most of my legal issues sorted out, but the emotional scars run deep. I keep waking up at night replaying everything: her sneaky meetings, her lies, the way she looked when she told me she loved me, all fake. It's a constant battle to remind myself that I deserve better, that I shouldn't carry her betrayal around like a weight. One thing I've learned is that trust is a fragile thing. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to get back. I used to believe in building a future with her, in the idea of us growing old together. Now I realize that was just a fantasy I created to ignore all the warning signs. The truth is, she was never who I thought she was. She was a manipulative, selfish woman who used me to fund her secret life. That realization stings worse than anything else. Every day, I remind myself that I was a fool for trusting her blindly, but I also know I can't live in regret forever. The biggest lesson I've taken from all this is that you can't ignore the signs. She was bitchy and dismissive, sure, but I thought that was just her personality. I thought she was stressed or overwhelmed. I didn't see the manipulative side, the sneaky side, the side that was secretly planning her escape. If I could go back, I'd pay more attention to the small red flags: her secretive phone habits, her evasiveness when I asked about her meetings, the way she suddenly became obsessed with hiding her finances. I'd tell myself, don't be naive. Look deeper. I've also come to realize that revenge, as satisfying as it might feel at first, doesn't fix everything. I wanted her to pay for what she did, but in the end, I realized that I needed to focus on healing myself. I had to cut ties with her completely, block her from my life and move on. That's what I've been doing: therapy, rebuilding my confidence, reconnecting with friends, and trying to find purpose again. It's not easy, but I know I'll get through it. Some days I still feel angry. Angry that she lied, cheated, stole from us, and tried to destroy what we had. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. Relief that I finally see her for what she really was. That I don't have to carry her bullshit anymore. I don't have to keep pretending everything's okay when it's not. I can start over, rebuild my life, and find someone who actually values honesty and loyalty. The pain will fade, I hope, but the lessons will stay with me forever. Looking back, I wish I'd been more vigilant, more aware. But I also know that sometimes love blinds us to the truth. I thought I was building a future, but I was just holding on to a dream that was never real. Now, I'm trying to find my footing again, piece by piece. I want to believe that someday I'll trust again, that I'll love again. But for now, I'm taking it slow, learning to forgive myself for not seeing things sooner, and learning that sometimes the biggest betrayal comes from the person you trust the most. That's a hard lesson, but one I have to learn if I want to move forward. It's been a long, exhausting journey, and honestly, I'm not sure I'm fully there yet, but I'm getting closer. One thing I've realized is that the pain of betrayal doesn't just go away overnight. It leaves scars, some deep enough that they never fully fade. But those scars can also remind you of your strength, how you survived, how you fought to reclaim your life. I've learned that no matter how much someone hurts you, you still have the power to choose how to move forward. The biggest thing I've come to accept is that I was blind for a long time. I trusted her because I wanted to believe in the best in her, in us. But trust isn't just about believing someone will never hurt you. It's about being aware, about reading the signs before it's too late. I wish I'd paid more attention to the subtle hints, the small red flags that I brushed aside. Maybe I could have prevented so much pain, but I also know that sometimes you only see the truth when it's shoved in your face, when everything falls apart. Now I focus on rebuilding myself. I've started to rediscover what makes me happy: old hobbies I'd abandoned, new goals I set for my career, reconnecting with friends who didn't judge me for my mistakes. I've also learned to be cautious, to protect my heart and my finances better. No more blind trust. No more ignoring the warning signs. I've become more aware of who I am and what I deserve: honesty, loyalty, respect. Looking back, I realized that her betrayal was a blessing in disguise. It forced me to wake up, to see the world more clearly, and most importantly, to see myself. I know I'll carry the pain and the lessons for a long time, but I also know I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the worst and I'm still standing. That's something to be proud of. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I want you to know you're not alone. It hurts like hell and it feels like your world is collapsing. But trust me, you can come out of it stronger. Take your time to grieve, to process, to heal. Don't rush into blaming yourself or others. And most importantly, remember that you deserve honesty and respect. Don't settle for less. Because in the end, the only person who truly has your back is you. And if you keep fighting, if you keep believing in yourself, you'll find a way to move past the pain and start a new chapter, one where you're finally in control of your life again.